Welcome into Post Game Live, brought to you by New England Ford Dealers and Ford Trucks, the official truck of the NFL. The Patriots' 7-game win streak comes to an end at the hand of the Colts, 27-17. You see the final score right there. Mac Jones, 26 of 45, 299 yards and 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Michael Holley, Tommy Curran, Amina Smith here with you, and so much to pick apart with this game. I did not think there would be this much to talk about with this matchup. However, Holley, let's go big picture. Your biggest takeaway?
Big picture is the result is not surprising. I think the way it unfolded really got my attention, especially in the first half when the Colts dictated the terms of the game. They were playing at one level. The Patriots were playing at 2 or 3 notches below that, and it was just too much of a hole to recover from. Even when it was just 20-7, I felt like I just don't see how the Patriots can win this game because, Tom, I just saw so many mistakes from the Patriots, from the block punt to false start penalties to offside penalties to holding penalties at critical times. So that really surprised me, the way they played tonight, not necessarily the result.
And taking that from the way they played, guys, it's, to me, is this the aberration? Or were they masked over the last 7 games? And to me, this was the aberration. And why do I say that? After they lose, after they get down 20-0 or scoreless in the first half? Well, when you look at the granular aspects, there was a 10-point swing on that missed Jacoby Myers throw, followed immediately by the block punt touchdown. Boom, there's a 10-point swing. Then after that, the Patriots are so inept, and Indianapolis continues to move down there. But defensively, they were keeping them out of the end zone. They were hanging around. Then you had an interception inside the 5. You had a pick at the beginning of the 3rd. So there were mistakes. There were penalties. There were special teams letdowns. But as the game progressed, it's not like the Colts were going up and down the field on them. Certainly showed a lot of the growth areas that Mac Jones is going to need to make. But if you're a Patriots fan, you're walking out of this game, you're still concluding, okay, he faced the adversity. He got his ass kicked for a while. He showed the resilience at the end. It's still a team that I'm going to enjoy watching, and they're not fated to be a disappointment. And it's already not a disappointment.
I'm not ready to plant my flag in aberration, because some of the things they did tonight.
7 weeks of good.
Yeah, no.
Undone
okay,
by 30
weeks,
minutes of
7 weeks of wins. 7 weeks of wins, but it wasn't all good along the way. You win these games and you don't really nitpick because that makes you come off like a little bit of an a-hole. Like, wait a minute, they won the game. What are you doing? But I would say some of these things are correctable. Some of them aren't. For example, I'm done. It's December, whatever today, December 18th.
18th, yeah.
I don't trust Jonnu Smith. Jonnu Smith.
Oh, yeah, I stopped trusting Jonnu Smith weeks ago.
Don't throw him the ball. Either when the ball hits his hands, I don't trust that it's going to come into his body. And then I don't even trust that he's going to run the right route. He almost got an interception from Mac Jones just by running the wrong route.
Well, I'll tell you what I don't trust.
So some of that stuff, it's not going to change.
I don't trust the running game, and it just doesn't have to do with the run defense. I mean, it doesn't just have to do with the 67-yard run at the end. This is a team that gave up 270 to Tennessee a couple weeks ago, and I said, well, those are a couple of home runs. Those are, 0-2, long foul balls that shouldn't have happened and whatever. But that 270, caught your attention, and then this one should catch your attention too. And I'll say something else. Mac Jones doesn't throw with enough pop to the outside, and teams are making him throw to the middle, and they don't have somebody explosive on the outside to win regularly enough, so they're going to continue to muddle the middle, and they're going to continue to tee off on these guys who are crossing Amina and stuck in the middle. I mean, that seam area is going to be a danger zone. You saw it happen with Harry. You saw it happen with Aguilar. So
right.
There are things, too, to wring your hands about.
Okay, all right. Well, let's bring in Matt Cassel right now. And Matt, just like we talked about, plenty of mistakes, some uncharacteristic play from the Patriots in this matchup. What was your biggest takeaway after this game?
Yeah, I mean, it absolutely was sloppy. It was uncharacteristic, and it wasn't a Patriots team that we're used to watching, right? They had 8 penalties for 50 yards. We talked about in this game, and I know Coach Belichick went over it, this team starts fast, and they didn't get off to a fast start. They went down to a 14-point deficit after the block punt. And again, it was mistake after mistake. It was missed assignments by Isaiah Wynn, giving up a sack. It was a cracked toss on 3rd down in which you don't block Darius Leonard on a 3rd and 3 play, and now he's got a tackle in the backfield, and again, again, stops another drive. It's when you're winning 7-0, you need a score in the fourth quarter and you're down on the 1 yard line and you jump off sides and now it takes you back and now you have to settle for a field goal. It was time and time again throughout the course of this game that this team just didn't show up when they needed to. And that was the disappointing part about it.
And just like I mentioned at the top, Mac Jones, 26 of 45, 299 yards and 2 touchdowns and 2 picks. But Tom Curran brought up a really good point. He says that Mac Jones not throwing with the pop. What say you, Matt Cassel, about what you've seen what you've seen from Mac Jones out there on the field?
Right. Well, what it is about Mac Jones is we know that, look, he's a timing passer. He's accurate. He's got to get the ball out on time because he doesn't have the strongest arm. And you even saw on the second pick, really, that came down to arm strength at that point because he was a little bit late, but Bolden still had an opportunity to catch that ball, but he threw it just a little bit behind it, floated on him a little bit, and he couldn't set the feet, and the guy was able to make a play on it. So we know that he doesn't have the strongest arm. And so when you get in these passing situations and when you have guys that are not creating tremendous amount of separation, it comes down to trying to throw on time. Here's the second pick right here. And like I said, it's got to be a little bit further out front, but again, when he can't set his feet and really get into that throw, it floats a little bit and it gives that guy an opportunity to make a play on the ball.
You know, here's the other thing, guys, and tell me if you agree with this. When they were 2-4 and they were able to dig themselves out of that 2-game hole and get up to the number 1 seed, you said, okay, I feel good about this because the number 1 seed is temporal. Like, if we can get it, well, great. Now, the number 1 seed after this game is still fluid. And that's a disappointing thing because that's what I thought the Patriots would do. I thought they would solidify that they're not like other AFC teams. They have some predictability. They have some trustworthiness atop the AFC, and they don't. So now Kansas City is there. I'm not afraid of Kansas City. Indianapolis is not afraid of New England. Everybody is now still in this mix. So it was really a disappointing game from the Patriots, especially since they were coming off a bye. They got a lot of attention, a lot of love in the manner in which they beat Buffalo, 33 straight wins, 33 straight runs, I should say. So this really was a bit of a downer.
Doesn't that parity maybe kind of concern you a little bit?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Especially if you're the number 1 seed if you win this game.
I just think it is unrealistic, but it's unrealistic. I think that we were all a little, our mouths were agape that this Patriots team, as I've said, in a rebuild year, which I believe it to be still, had gained that number 1 seed. So for them to stub their toe for the first 30 minutes, plus, the pick at the beginning of the third quarter, for them to stub their toe for 35 minutes and still remain resourceful against a very well-built team, I'm like, it's an aberration, Michael.
Stubbing your toe on the red carpet is unacceptable. That's the wrong time to stub your toe, right?
A red carpet. Is this a red carpet?
And here's the other thing, Tom. Like this well-built team, they came into the game 7-6. They were 2-5 against teams with winning records. So
all these teams have zits. The Patriots have zits.
The Patriots came into the game with
but a lot of this,
they were 7-1 against the conference coming into this game. They were the class of the conference, and they didn't show up tonight. This is a disappointing loss, not an aberration either.
It's a disappointing loss, but a lot of this is self-inflicted. These are mistakes that can be corrected, and that we haven't seen this type of football of the New England Patriots for that 7-game win streak. And now they come in against Indianapolis and they come out flat. For 3 quarters, they played awful. And then you finally get the fourth quarter. It was actually, I enjoyed watching that fourth quarter, and I think it spoke a lot about the team and where Mac Jones is and his growth as well, because after the game he was having with the 2 interceptions back-to-back at the end of the first half in the red zone, and then come right back, throw another interception. That's a hard day. And you have to try to overcome that mentally. And to see him go out there and continue to fight and overcome the situation in the fourth quarter and put up 17 points and still give them possibly an opportunity to win, that's a good sign moving forward. And to be honest with you, I knew this was going to be a tough game, but at the end of the day, it's a situation where this team just is going to play better down the road, and they're going to make the corrections that need to be made so that they can win these games.
There was, as there always is, Matt, a lot of conversation about Josh McDaniels needs to be fired into the sun. I don't think that this was really a bad Josh McDaniels game. Again, there's going to be plays in the running game, especially when you make decisions that, why would you run it there? Because they're not black and white decisions. But what was your appraisal of what Josh McDaniels cobbled together?
Well, it was interesting because you know what? They had penalties. They weren't executing at the front of the offensive line. I think, and I don't know if it was a protection scheme thing, but they were bringing a lot of free runners in the pass game, especially early on. And they made halftime adjustments. They were able to pick it up better. But all in all, they couldn't get the production in the run game on first and second down, in which we've been accustomed to, right? And set them up a more manageable third downs. And because of that reason, it put them in a different situation. And then with the penalties, it's always, as an offensive coordinator, they sit there and they always say, what do you want to call on 2nd and 15? What do you want to call on 3rd and 20? And I get that, and I understand it. It's a hard process to get through. At the same time, it wasn't as creative as we've seen in the past. But look, there was an opportunity right there on the flea flicker late in the game. I mean, we had a wide open to kill Harry, and we couldn't find the wide receiver because of penetration. Look, that's just a good play design right there. And unfortunately, it didn't work out.
I mentioned Jonnu Smith before, how I don't trust him. He does a lot of things that it makes me wonder, does he understand the offense? Does he understand what they're trying to do? I mean, some things he does that just blow my mind. Like, what are you doing right there in that situation with the false start? And why don't you run your routes cleaner? Why are your hands so unreliable? So I don't trust Jonnu Smith. I don't get Isaiah Wynn. Is he a good player or not? Are you going to turn yourself into a first-round left tackle, or are you just a guy who every now and then makes some nice plays? We don't talk about you. But in critical times, another false start from Isaiah Wynn in a really big situation. And the offensive line has kind of calmed down in the 7-game winning streak. But it's still not perfect. It's still not reliable as it should be. So that's why I understand what you're saying, Curran, about the aberration. You never want to overreact to one game in December against a decent team on the road. Not a great team, but a decent team, winning record. But some of these things have been popping up all year, and we haven't talked about them because the Patriots have been streaking.